DEI. You mentioned the Post, and of course Jeff Bezos has owned that for many years, but in the last year or so, certainly since November, his policies have led to many cancellations of subscriptions, many people leaving, including me just last month. And along with the buyout, there have been many more people leaving. And the kinds of relationships that Bezos has demonstrated with Trump in order to protect his primary investment, which is Amazon, have been really very troubling to a lot of people at the Post. When you see him on the front line of Trump's inauguration, you know, Amazon donated $1 million to his inauguration. You know, there's this sense of coziness, not just a sense, but those actions kind of demonstrate a coziness that leaves many of us in journalism feeling very troubled and very uncomfortable. And so I think the way the corporate culture now is kind of encroaching upon journalism in many different ways, especially when it seems to be in service to Donald Trump as a politician to be feared, essentially, as opposed to one to be reported on. You know, it should give us all in journalism a great deal of concern, and I think organizations, journalism organizations in particular, and perhaps NABJ leading the way to some extent, are incredibly important in this environment.
I want to ask that same question of Sam. When you're seeing these barriers that you face and you're seeing that on screen, and what are the barriers that we're facing now as journalists? How do you compare those two?
Well, one thing I can say, I retired in December of 23, and I'm glad I'm not out there today.
Spell that out. Why are you so glad?
Well, because of people like Trump, you know? And I think that the question is the truth being told? That is a big question. And I read the Washington Post today. Trump is talking about taking over the DC government, talking about sending in the National Guard to replace the DC Police Department. This is idiotic, and you have to sit there and try to look in the straight face and say, on the one hand, no. So I'm glad I'm not out there doing this. And you know, one of the things, and I don't know if you all had this situation, but a number of my friends have told me the same thing. I just stopped watching TV. I'm a news reporter on television, but I just couldn't take it. You know, I said, I don't want to see this. And that's terrible to hide your head in the sand, you know, that's true. But, you know, now he's having some problems, I'm watching more.
I can't tell if we have anyone in the... We do. Okay, can you just go to the microphone?
It's on the other side.
And we'll get your question.
It's here.
I'm sorry, I directed you wrong. Over there.
I got a microphone.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Sherry Jackson, Birmingham Association of Black Journalists, longtime member of NABJ. One of the things I take away from the film is the courage it took. You guys mentioned there were more than 44 people there, but only 44 signed. And so my question is about the courage it took then and the courage it will take now to address some of the ills in the industry and in our society as far as democracy and the role of journalism is concerned.
Allison, you want to do that?
Yeah, I mentioned I was 22 years old, and I guess I was 22 years old and foolish. I had just actually left the Panther Party in Boston, and had gone home where my parents lived in Silver Spring, and ended up at this event. So for me, I shouldn't tell you that I was fearless, but I was. I was working at WBZ in Boston, and I was new at the job, but what could they do to me? You know, my thought was, this was where I was supposed to be at this point in my life. I had just done a bunch of revolutionary things, and I would come home and my parents would ask all the time, who are you now? And I would say, well, you know, at one point I came home and I said, I'm almost Allison 5X. And my mother said, oh, Lord. The bottom line of the story is that NABJ, I think, pretty much calmed me down because now I understood a little bit more of what we needed to do in order to pull this organization together. And I also understood working in these groups, whether it was the Republic of New Africa, and you don't want to know about that one, or the Panther Party, I knew that you had to have worker bees. You know, not everybody could make the speeches. Not everybody could do what I think some of us were called to do. So I think that all of that led up to my work at NABJ.
Let's get a question on this side.
Good morning. Wayne Dawkins, Professor of Research, Hampton University Scripps Howard School. And first, a quick praise. Co-founder Paul Delaney, who is not on the panel, is featured prominently in 2 new books. A history of the New York Times by Adam McGurney, and also a book called The Evening Star that features his time at the Washington Star. Now my question, what is it going to take to get the last living founder's picture? He's Richard Rambo, he's in Detroit. We need someone to get a camera on him and get that picture and close the loop, because I have interviewed every living founder of NABJ, but we need to close that loop. He's about 85 years old. We're almost out of time.
You know, I can talk to that because I knew Richard. We were both in Detroit at the time. Well, I was in Philadelphia, but I knew him from Detroit. And I've tried to get in touch with him many times over the years. And his brother said that he doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody, not even his brother, not NABJ, not anybody. And so, believe me, we have tried, but I don't think he wants to cooperate with that. And he came to he's a founder, and he was at the founding meeting, but he never attended anything else, to my knowledge.
Let's get your question.
Thank you very much. Andrew Humphrey, Chief Meteorologist, Fox 13 Memphis, also lifetime member of NABJ, founded the Digital Journalism Task Force, also co-founder of the Weather and Climate Task Force. First off, we've said it once, but we've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being legends, for being brave pioneers, and standing on your shoulders. With that, for the short-term future and long-term future, we know that there are many challenges that are out there and many more challenges to come. When you look at today's journalism and media landscape, what kind of optimism do you have for NABJ members, especially with the tools and technology that is faster, that is cheaper, that is smaller, that gives one more independence or autonomy in performing their jobs or achieving their goals, and basically building their own New York Times, building their own Washington Post, building their own journalism media foundation for the people. Thank you.
Joel, you want to take that?
Point to me.
Thanks.
I listen.
Wait, I'm sorry. Just
Okay.
wait. Okay.
Dare to be great. The future for black journalists is not to be found at NBC or at CNN or at any of the other mainstream traditional media organizations. We have to look beyond the curve, beyond the horizon, to figure out what the new delivery systems are and how we play a part in that. Throughout the history of this country, from Ida B. Wells and even before Ida B. Wells, to Walter White, to many of the other journalists, Carlotta Bass at the California Eagle, coming forward. Black journalists have stepped forward, but they have been few and far and in between. It takes courage. We've got a lot of people in this room. I don't know how many courageous people we have. Just as on December 12th, 1975, we had a lot of people attending a meeting of 800 black elected officials. That's lost to us today. People forgot why we were there. There were 800 black elected officials coming together in Washington to plot out